Get ready, Texas, because we're back and covering everything from bass, crappie, and catfish to redfish, trout, red snapper, and wahoo this week.
That's right, Bree. Warm temps, changing tides, and a mix of sunshine and storms. It could shake some things up.
So stick around. The Texas Insider Fishing Report starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to the 2025 season of the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Rick, I know you and I have been excited to get our guides and captains back to work, but I've heard the anglers of Texas have been just as anxious and are ready to get back to it.
You're absolutely right, Bree. And we learned that when we were at the Bassmasters Classic, in Fort Worth a week or so ago. Man, it was a great time to see all our fans out there. It was great to hear what they had to say about the show, the things that they loved, and how they loved all our different reports. And more importantly, it was just neat to be involved in the Classic because it's really the Super Bowl of fishing every year.
And we had our captains join us, Matt and Mike, which was a treat as well. We had fun, but Rick, we wouldn't be complete without our third musketeer over at the workbench. So let's welcome back Dave Farrell.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that Texas trip.
Oh, we missed you so much.
I really wanted to go. But, tonight we're going to be talking a lot about catching bass on all the stages of their spawn.
And we are so excited about that.
Yes.
But it's time to get our bass on in the Heroes on the Water Lower Fresh region, where Matt Reed couldn't be more impressed with Lake Falcons happenings right now. So let's get this season started, Matt.
All right, guys, let's kick this year off. I tell you what, Falcon Lake is on fire right now. It's just amazing how good the fishing is. The biggest pattern revolves around the shad spawn. The Berkeley Dime 4 and 6 crankbaits and blueback chartreuse have been the best choice for those shallow fish. Shad pattern slobber knockers are also producing well. Something that's just beginning to peak and form a little bit. The fish are moving out a little bit into the early summer pattern. That Dime 10 is catching a lot of fish out in that 8 to 10 foot range. Also in that later day period, I'm throwing a 1/4 ounce shaky head with a Berkeley General on it on those same rock ridges. Just catching fish all day long, and we have caught a ton of big ones lately. Kurt Dove sent me a report from Lake Amistad. Fishing has steadily improved over the last 2 weeks. The water temperatures are consistently in the mid to lower 60s. The bass are either on the bed or moving up into the spawning areas and are in that pre-spawn mode. Secondary points in the back of creeks are where the warmest water has been, and that's the best concentration of fish right now. Popular techniques have been medium-sized swim baits and soft plastics. Quite a few 5-fish, 20-pound limit bags have been caught lately, and he anticipates this pattern should hold over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Brian Cotter has sent me a report from the Austin area. Lake Austin is fishing great. Some bass are on beds and shallow, and the others are close to spawning. 5-inch stick worms and creature baits work slowly around the grass on the flats has been your best choice. Lake Travis is also fishing well. Generally the same pattern. Bass are in the creeks or, in the back of the creeks beginning to spawning, and some of them are finished. Texas rig worms, crawls, and swim baits are also the ticket on Lake Travis. Lake Bastrop, the discharge, the bass have begun schooling in the mornings. Small swim baits and crankbaits are catching a bunch of those fish. After they go down, you want to throw a shaky head finesse worm down on the bottom under where they were to keep on catching them. Also, there's some fish out on the main lake points. Those fish are responding to flukes and worms in that 3 to 10 foot range. Greg Boyd sent me a report from Fayette County. It's been fishing extremely well this week with a lot of quality fish coming from the main lake brush piles and weed lines. Shaky heads and light Carolina rig plastics has been the ticket. He's also had some luck on suspended fish with flutter spoons around the intake in the dike. Summerville, the water temperature's around 70, and the bass are on the edge of the brush standing timber with dark-colored soft plastics in that 1 to 6 foot range. Lots of fish being caught in my region. Got 3 pictures here. We got Wayne with a big old Falcon special.
Whoa.
And Kent with another one from down here in my boat recently. And Kurt Dove's got a picture of one from Amistad. Lots of big fish being caught in my region right now.
Man, those are some beautiful fish. All right, what else you got for us this week, Matt?
I got us a catfish report from Falcon Ramirez. Said the trophy catfish have been slowing down a little bit with the water temperatures warming up, but the bigger ones have been caught suspended off of the bottom. Keepers and teeners have been good in Tiger Creek area with live bait and fresh cut bait on the hard rocky bottoms. Got a picture of him there with a big old blue cat. Man, this lake has got a ton of blue cat in it, and there are quite a few people that utilize them.
All right, that's good stuff. Way to get us started for our 2025 season, Bub. We're going to go and take a look at the hot spots from the lower fresh region. Matt says that the Falcon Lake bass, they are on fire. The biggest pattern revolves around the shad spawn. The Berkeley Diamond 4 and 6 crankbaits in blue and black chartreuse are your best choice. Shad pattern slobber knockers are also producing well, and later in the day you want to move out to 8 to 12 feet of water with a quarter-ounce shaky head and a Berkeley General to keep catching them.
Keep on catching, that's what I love to hear. All right, now we're seeing what Bink Grimes has been up to in the project's Middle Coast region. Bink, now that we're back on the air, it's time to get us back on the fish.
It's great to be back another year at Texas Insider Fishing Report and reporting on the Project Family Smokehouse Middle Coast region. Good things are happening in our fishery. Even better catches have been had this first quarter of 2025. We're getting stiff southerly breezes right now, which it's pumped up our tides. Our trout are tighter to the shorelines for waders casting the reefs, working sand and grass. For the last 2 months, our tides have been way below average, so we're real happy to get our water back. In West Matagorda Bay, the trout bite has been excellent while wading. Worked the south shoreline of West Matagorda Bay, concentrating on flats with these higher tides. Most of those trout have been hanging in just off the shoreline, about 40 to 50 yards off the shoreline. Then we're drifting in East Matagorda Bay with soft plastic gulps under a cork, spin the ticket, working that shell, making long floats around slicks and flipping mullet. And then at Port O'Connor, guide Lynn Smith said he's working guts and troughs with the falling tide on bass assassins, mirror or soft tines. They're working great around Sand and Grass and Panther Point. And then around Freeport, Bastrop, and Christmas Bays, everybody's working the reef. Best bet's been on live shrimp, cast at edges of the reef. With those good tides, those fish are right on the edge. There's a lot of trout there. There's also a lot of black drum and redfish. Then Rockport anglers have found fish around Super Flats and Grass Island, around St. Joe Island on small topwaters and corkies. Work those corkies and soft tines right along the edge of the grass there. Redfish, these better tides are helping our redfish. There's lots of shrimp in our bay. Our bait shrimpers are having no problem keeping those tanks full. When that's the case, those fish are usually turned on. Waders have found redfish tight with these tight to the shorelines of these bullet tides. Smaller shrimp hide in the grass with high tides, and these reds literally root them out. There's some new gulp shrimp out that we've been throwing towards these redfish. That scent really gets them going. Best bet for reds continues to be along the beach as well. Slot-sized reds have been caught in the first gut, and those bull reds are on the deep side of the second sandbar off the tip of the Matagorda Jetty. That same pattern's been holding true around Palacios and Matagorda. Crab Lake, Oyster Lake, Coon Island holding redfish on live shrimp and mullet. Tides are really high. Most of those fish are right on top of the shell with these high tides. Then the Surfside and Port O'Connor jetties are holding big reds too. Some are using cracked blue crabs. Some are freelining big Gulf shrimp and Carolina rig shrimp. And when they can't get live shrimp, they're throwing that new Gulp shrimp. The photo there, large redfish, they've been roaming the middle of the bays, hitting soft plastic and gulps. And man, we'll get them one day. The next day they'll be gone. Then the next day we'll all be bowed up. They're just making figure eights right in the middle of East Matagorda Bay right now.
Nice.
Offshore in Freeport, red snapper are good in state waters. Sardines and shad dropped in 35 to 40 foot of water has been best. There's lots of sharks out there as well. And Michael Quebeca said ling and amberjacks are showing in Matagorda. Red snapper there are also good in state waters. He said he's seen a lot of bull redfish and sharks just off the beach. Our water temperatures out there are running about 63 to 74 degrees, which is pretty warm for right now. So we're happy that that's happening. That brings in a lot of bait fish into our bays with these tides swelling right now. We're also happy to be back and ready to give you up-to-date reports on the Prosek Family Smokehouse, Middle Coast region. I've been a customer of Prosek for over 25 years, and their stuff is just plain good. I mean, I can't tell you how many steaks I've eaten from that place. So we're happy to be reporting with them as a sponsor. Please continue to practice sound catch and release. please release more than you take, and please, treat everybody like you'd want to be treated on the water.
So, Bink, got a Prosix question for you. What's in Bink Grimes' cooler when it comes to Prosix? What are your favorite, bub?
They're jerky, probably jerky on the water, or they're kolaches. Man, there's no better kolache on the market, and we'll talk about that in the coming weeks, because we're pretty check heavy around here, heavy around this part of and man, there's nothing better than a good Bohemian sausage.
All right, bud. Thank you so much for giving us a great report from the Middle Coast region. It is time for the MirrOlure Hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Our man Bink says, inshore, the trout are fair while drifting in East Matagorda Bay on plum, bass, assassin, sea shads, and gulps under a popping cork. Redfish are fair and good in the back lakes on shrimp and crabs. And then if you want to go offshore, the swordfish are good offshore when that wind has allowed.
All right, Rick. Well, the Upper Fresh region has been gearing up for their big season debut, but first Dave is rigged and ready for Rigs and Techniques at the Parts View Workbench. Dave, what we got over there?
I'm going to be talking a lot about these bass on the spawn, all the stages of spawn, but really I'm going to be just waiting for that box of Prosix.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that only I would be the one to appreciate it.
We'll do some quality control. All right, we'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio. Blue light blocking, radically clear polarized fishing sunglasses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. Prosex Smoked Meats. Fuel your day the Texas way. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, it's time to be here at the Parts View Workbench. You know what, Dave? And every week we're going to be talking about rigs and techniques, and this week you decided you want to touch on a little bass.
Well, this is the best time to be bass fishing in Texas. It's springtime. Once that water hits 65 degrees, the bass start to go on the spawn. They're all, as big as the state is, they're on all stages of the spawn throughout the state. A cold front can come through and knock them off, and then they'll come back on. So right now, all the fish are, at some point in the spawn. They're either pre-spawn, spawning, or post-spawn right now. So, and there's just tons of them. And this is the time to catch the big fish too. The Texas Lunker Program, this is when they really start pouring out some great big fish, 12, 13 pounders. They're just catching them all the time. So, when we're going to be out there throwing at these bass on the beds, they're going to be very aggressive. The males are going to be up in the shallow water mostly. The female, she might be up in there too, but she doesn't spend a whole lot of time. She gets up there, gets her thing done, and usually skedaddles. So, but she's going to be, either in that deeper water that leads up to those spawning areas. That's where you're going to probably find her most of the time. Sometimes you'll see her sitting on the bed, but mostly the little male is the one that's up there on the bed. Once she lays those eggs, he's up there guarding them. So anything that comes through there, he's going to pounce on. He's very aggressive at that period of time. The females are wanting to bulk up if they're pre-spawn, and after they spawn, because they don't eat for a little while, then they're hungry again. So the bass are hungry, and if you're out there, just about anything you throw at them is going to catch them. Now that creature bait there is a great bait to throw. With a big bait like that, it's good to use one of those extra wide gap hooks, because you got so much, profile and meat in between the fish and the hook point. So that extra wide gap really helps you out whenever you're going to be using a big bait like that.
This is the Trocar?
Yes, sir. That's the EYG. And if you're going to be using some of the trick worms and stuff, like the tap out worm, you might want to cut that tail off and make it even 6 inches. Make it a little smaller. And it's just a trick worm is just a straight worm with no
So
real
would you cut it
action to
off here, or are you going to cut off in the front? Which way do you prefer
I would probably,
to shorten it?
I would probably take this part off just so I have enough meat for my hook to go in.
Right.
If you start getting into this real shallow, a real narrow part.
This is a different hook than the...
Yeah, but you can get away with just using the Pro V worm hooks, like a 4/0 or a round bend like this one is, because it's a smaller profile bait. So you don't really have to have that extra wide gap area, this is more streamlined and you can still get a hook in the fish. It's the same way if I'm going to be throwing one of those lizards. Boy, the bass on the bed really hate a lizard because they think it's a salamander or something, and they are notorious for eating bass eggs. So they really hate a lizard this time of year. If you don't throw a lizard any other time, now is the time when those fish are up in that shallow water, 5 feet or less. That lizard gets a lot of attention, and they really hate it. They really hate them. And they were talking about using a slobber knocker in a shad color right now. Mm-hmm. That one would be great, either with a trailer on it or without a trailer. Those slobber knockers work really well.
I like it.
Yeah, they work really well. And I like to throw a wacky worm. And this is one I've cut. It's just a tap out that I've cut off. And I like to use that little tiny larva jig. It's a little tiny hook, but it's really strong. So even if you hook a great big fish on that hook, it's not going to pull out, especially with the drag that we're using. And you can throw that a little further with the weights, and you can adjust the weights. They make them up to a 1/4 ounce. So you can throw that little tiny hook a long ways. And we want to stay off them a little bit when they're up in that shallow water. They get pretty skittish, So the further we can stay back and cast past the bedding area and then bring the bait, whatever we're using, across the bed to them, it'll work a lot better. The spinner baits work really good right now, just because they make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention.
And what's the rod for, Dave?
Well, this is a heavy inshore rod. This is the Elite inshore fishing rod from Fenwick. It's got a 30-60 ton graphite blend in it. It's a heavier rod, and when we're catching these big fish in that shallow water, we need to get them up and out of the cover and whatnot. So this is a great rod to do it with. It's got heavy-duty titanium guides, custom reel seat. It's very strong, but still sensitive.
Right.
Fenwick makes really strong and sensitive rods, and this is perfect for when the bass are up in that real shallow water and you want to move them out of cover, because that's where they'll be. They'll be around some sort of cover. So
I got you. Why a spinning rod over a bait caster?
Well, you could use either one.
It's forgiving.
It is a little more forgiving, but in Texas,
when it's blowing 40. That's why you're using a spinning rod.
That's true. You can throw lighter baits as well with a spinning rod.
Exactly, on that little larva jig.
Didn't miss a beat, gentlemen.
Nope.
Awesome job over there. All right, the Upper Fresh Region Lakes are taking the cake for our first week back, and I know Mike McFarland has plenty to say about them. Mike, it was great seeing you in Fort Worth at the Classic, and thank you so much for helping us hand out our swag bags.
It was a lot of fun. It was so great to see you guys, and it's even more exciting to kick off the season. You missed Dave. We really did want to see Dave there, but guess what? Dave is so spot on about the lizard, and that's just what I'm going to tell you about. We got bedding, spawning fish in the Upper Fresh region. I got some great reports to go to, and the lizard will catch them. So let's tell you about the Upper Fresh fishing.
All right, go ahead, bud.
All right, at Lake Fork, the bass fishing's really kicked off here. We're catching good numbers. Most of the days, there's actually a lot of 5 to 7 pound bass in the mix. I had a 21 pound 5-fish bag with a 10-year-old last week. The big bass can be found in several stages, ranging from the offshore trees where you might live scope with like the Berkley stunted jerkbaits, or absolutely spawning on the spawning flats in the spawning grounds on their nests. I like the fishing in the shallow water, just like Dave was talking. A lot of the baits that I'm going to use is going to be anything in the Berkley Max scent. The Berkley Max scent outfishes all the other plastics. So I like the creature baits, black and blues, the natural colors, green pumpkins. I do like to dip or dye the chartreuse or orange on the claws for my creature baits. But you'll find that those are perfect for bed fishing. They really catch a lot of fish. The big females are about to spawn, so if you want to catch a big bass, now is the best time to be on Lake Fork. Going on to Lake Athens from Jay Bonner, same thing there. We got 60-degree water temp, full pool. The fish are moving into the spawning areas. Some of them are on the spawning beds. Fish the shorelines with just Texas rigged creature baits, flukes, pegged with a nail weight, wacky worms, a lot like what Dave was talking about. The wacky worm works perfect there on Athens. Small square bill crankbaits like the Berkley Frit Side, perfect search bait to find areas that are holding bass. And the slobber knocker, the chatterbait slobber knocker type style bait from Berkley will catch really big fish at Athens. Lake Lavon, Kerry Thorne, he said the black bass are spawning there on beds. We're catching them in the creek systems. They're guarding nests. There's fish all along the backs of the coves. And believe it or not, they're right there with the crappie. And we'll give you crappie in a minute, but the bass and crappie spawn about the same area, same time. So we're seeing a lot of 1 to 5 foot fish. White chartreuse spinner baits are working really good in the morning before you can see the nest. But then the rest spend the day with, Texas rig creature baits and worms and look for those spawning bass. One more lake, Ray Hubbard, Joe Shipley. Fish are shallow, flip the grass and reeds and any shallow structure. Texas rig creature baits in the color Junebug and small chatterbaits are also catching good fish. And look, here's some beautiful catches recently from Lake Fork. And these are just our average run-of-the-mill bass, as big as they are. Believe it or not, that's common bass for Lake Fork.
All right.
Good
Tell us
name.
about the crappies, bub.
Crappie, we got good crappie fishing. Jackie Wiggins says Lake Fork has been steady with lots of big fish. The trouble has been the winds. You have to battle the winds, but good numbers of fish and timber in 6 to 20 feet of water close to the spawning areas. Cold fronts have really kind of pushed some fish back and forth, moving in and out. But if you find a spawning area holding 62 to 64 degree water temperatures, you should find plenty of fish in that 2 to 4 foot range. Some fish are holding on to bridges, but most of the time this year, they're all moving in those backwaters just like the bass to spawn. The challenging, again, has been the wind. Wind speeds are dictating a lot of their location and demeanor. The bite is pretty good most days if you'll use artificials, but minnows will save the day. If you need something, live minnows will save your day. And then there's Jackie Wiggins with a really cool catch. Look how big these crappie are in the front. I mean, everything in Texas is bigger.
Man, that's nice. All right, tell us about the white bass and stripers.
So hybrids on Tawakoni, the stripers, they're fair to me. It's hit and miss. They get them one day and they don't the next. The rip wrap and the timber points, crankbaits, jerk baits, big swim baits. Thing is when they do get these hybrids and stripers, they're big fish. It's really good. The sand bass are staging also on the points and jumps in about 22 feet of water. Small slab spoons are working well there. But again, look at these pictures from Matt, how big these hybrids are. I mean, you catch 5 or 6 of those and you're having a good day.
Yeah,
That's big fish.
You sure are. Well, bud, we, it's so good to see you on camera. We appreciate you having your own little studio there. We're looking forward to
looks
seeing you
good.
each and every week. But it is time to say goodbye and say hello to your hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. Mike says that Lake Fork, the bass are shallow and digging their nests to spawn. The fishing has been excellent. The best baits have been the Berkley Max Scent creature style baits. Black and blue natural crawfish colors are putting some giant Lake Fork bass in the boat.
As we all just saw.
Yeah.
All right, we're headed to the Front Runner Boats Upper Coast region where we have your brand new captain waiting to meet y'all, then fishing the Lower Coast region. So stick around and don't forget to stay hooked on everything fishing in Texas. Just scan that QR code on your screen. It'll take you to all of our social media pages, our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy, and for fresh fishing adventures and reports, plus our website where you'll find show merch, audio reports, upcoming events, and so much more. So go ahead, scan and explore. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Abyss Battery. Power your pursuit. Rodan. Set it, forget it, catch more fish. Berkley Pro Spec Chrome. And Penn. Let the battle begin.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the new Power Pole View 4.2-inch touchscreen display. The Power Pole View is sleek, low profile, and controls all your Power Pole products from one device right here on my dash. The first tab is my anchor tab. I can run my Power Pole anchors up and down. I can also adjust my speed setting from fast, medium, and slow. The next tab over is my charge tab. I can see the voltage of all my trolling motor batteries and my engine battery. I can also adjust the priority if I want more power to the trolling or more power to the engine right here from the display. And if my motor won't start, I can even initiate an emergency start. And the last tab is the PowerPole Move screen. We took the PowerPole Move remote and put it right here on a touchscreen, so you're used to all the great controls. But the big thing I like is I can even see the head of the trolling motor right here on the screen. We all know people like to stand in front of the trolling motor while you're fishing, and now I can see the direction that the trolling motor is going. To learn more about the PowerPole View, go to powerpole.com, and that's your PowerPole tip.
Okay, it's time to seize the social. Every week, we'll be reeling in the best fishing and ocean vibes from your favorite social media feeds. So let's dive on in and see what we found this week. There you have it. You got a reel that made you laugh or want to grab a rod? Send us your favorite fishing videos and you might see them right here on Seize the Social. To submit, scan the QR code or drop them in our DMs. All right, now we would like to introduce your new captain hailing from the Upper Coast region, Mickey Eastman. All right, Mickey, we welcome you to our Texas Insider Fishing Report family, so let's hear your report.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, let's start out Upper Texas coast, Galveston Bay, inshore, speckled trout. Trinity Bay's been fair to good along the east shoreline for trout and flounder in about 2 feet of water, up to 5 feet around shell bottoms, points and drains. Shad Assassins, Little Johns, and soft dines are working the best. And look for slicks, bait fish, and streaking water. The water temps running about 70 degrees and green. East Bay's holding good numbers of specks, too, along the south shoreline between Stingray Cut to Elm Grove Point and Pepper Point Reefs. They're holding fair numbers of slot-sized trout, and the north shoreline's been pretty good behind cold fronts. Space Dust, Little Johns, and Laguna Shrimp, Bass Assassins, best bet to throw. Water temps 72. Clarity is good. And looking at the lower Galveston Bay area, it's starting to heat up for good catches of trout, especially with the water temperatures on the rise. Oyster reefs in about 3 to 6 feet of water. They're doing quite well. Slicks and bait fish prevalency is what you look for, and soft plastics have been working good. Live shrimp also. Water temp 71. Clarity is good. And Sabine Lake over there, the shallow flats along the Louisiana shoreline have been good on pearl, Bass Assassins, and paddle-tail swim baits with a light jig head. And the best bite, it's on an outgoing tide near drains and points and mud shell mixed bottom. Water clarity, it's kind of marginal with these spring winds and freshwater inflow, but definitely holding fish. The lower channel at Sabine Pass is holding fair numbers of trout, especially along shell ledges from 2 to 8 feet of water. Water temp there is 70 degrees. And the photo of the week for speckled trout is Captain Steve Hillman of Galveston. Nice. And moving over to redfish, well, the Galveston jetties, they're continued to stay hot north and south for, the South Jetty and the North Jetty, especially on knocker rigs with crab and shrimp. They're fishing those real tight to the rocks, and live shrimp, Bass Assassin paddle tails, and lipless crankbaits in red colors. They've been the best bet. But incoming tide along the rocks with teaming finger mullet has been the best pattern. Water temp 73 degrees. And looking at the Upper Bay rock growings, the ones with distinct drop-offs, they've been producing good slot redfish on crankbaits and spinnerbaits. Shallow flats with grass, shell, and drains from marshy areas have been good for weight fishing. Throwing spoons, topwaters, soft plastics in West Bay, Trinity Bay, and East Bay. Dark colors working best. In open water schools, they're holding bigger redfish under slicks and mud boils in Trinity Bay, but most fish, they're above the slot size, but a lot of fun. But the open water schools have been tough to target due to strong spring winds. Sabine Lake red fishing, it's been fair to good also, depending on conditions. Best area has been the lower channel along shell drop-offs with soft plastics, and the east shoreline from Madam Johnson, Bayou to Blue Buck Point, and 2 to 4 feet of water has been the best bet for slot redfish. Bass Assassins and Gulf shrimp are working really good. And the redfish photo of the week is from Captain Tommy Alexander And looking at offshore, bull redfish, they're kind of the hot item right now along the beachfront near passes like Sabine Pass, the Galveston Jetties, and San Luis Pass. They've been producing good numbers of bull redfish on crab, mullet, and shad on Carolina rigs with circle hooks. Water temps 70 degrees when conditions prevail. Water clarity has been good. And sharks, several different species. They're showing up all along the beachfront and all the major passes and entering into the bay system, and all baits are working good for these sharks right now as they stage up. Mullet and shad are best bet for success, and shark photo courtesy of Outcast Charters. So that pretty much sums it up for Galveston Bay. Pretty good all over.
Well, Mickey, I just want to welcome you to the show. We appreciate you helping us with the Upper Coast region. You know, it's been a long time, Bree. Mickey and I met fishing in the Redfish Cup against each other in Punta Gorda 1,000,000 years ago. He was part of the group, the Baytown Boys, and I'm going to tell you, those guys, they've kicked our butts many a times when they came to Florida or...
And not many people can say that about
we
you.
seen it the other way too, Rick.
Well, I'll let you talk about me, and I'll talk about you. And it's an honor to have you on the show, Bub. We're so grateful to have you. And everybody needs to tune in for Mickey's radio show because it's really spot on.
Sounds good.
Well,
welcome to the
pleasure
family,
to be
Mickey.
here.
All right, Bud.
You bet it. Appreciate you guys.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Great job this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Upper Coast hotspots. He says upper back bays above Galveston Bay and San Jacinto River watershed.
San Jacinto.
Jacinto.
There you go.
All right, see, I knew you'd keep me right. Watershed have been producing great numbers of trout, redfish, black drum, and sheeps. Coves on the south shoreline of West Bay are producing good trout. And don't forget, the east shoreline of Sabine Lake has plenty of trout and redfish in the shallows. I like that you're bilingual for me.
Don't worry, I got you,
Jacinto.
bro. I got your back. We'll work on your Spanish.
Okay,
All right,
please.
throughout the season.
Thank you.
Okay, let's head into the lower coast region where Captain Chad Kinney always has it going on offshore and inshore. So let's hear the latest. Glad to have you back with us, Chad.
I'll tell you, looking forward to the season. This time of year is always a transitional phase down here, so I enjoy the heck out of it. We go from, high winds, water temps coming in, and Mexico water, blue water, everything else like that. So you got to definitely pay attention to the reports because things are going to be changing weekly. But talking about right now, what's really going on, I'm sure guys are talking about, but right now you head up to the jetties sheephead action. It's on fire and it won't last long. It'll turn off like a light switch. It won't go too long at all. And the trout fishing's been really, really good in 3 to 5 foot of water along the grass beds and the sand pockets out there. But talking about sheephead, I probably bet you I won't talk about the rest of the season. But right now, it's really going off on the lower coast jetties. Definitely here, a month ago March, but definitely in April right now where we're at. So the bite's been really, really good on the washouts. Right next to the rocks is the best way to do that. Best way is to use your Rodan trolling motor and anchor lock it right there to be staying in position. You'll find a washout, find a hold, an eddy, and just pitch those baits right up there. Live shrimp and dead shrimp are working really, really good with an Eagle Claw 1 to 2 out hook, and put barely like a little split shot weight with it just to pitch it up in there, and it'll go good. Gulps working also really good. If you guys want to use some gulps and pitch it on there if you run out of bait or anything else like that, they'll eat those also. They'll work for the same application. Like I said, these fish aren't going to hold very long at the jetties like that. So right now, if you can get out and get on there, you'll know right within 5-10 minutes if they're there or not. And there's some good, solid 5 to 7 pound fish. Good solid sheephead. Moving to trout fishing, it's been really good in the grass beds in 3 to 5 foot of water. Saltwater assassin sea shad, that magic grass. I've been talking about it for years, but I don't know why, but the lower coast, it's a to-go two-color, purple and chartreuse kind of thing. Works great. We're using an 1/8 ounce jig head on that. Is working the best. And find an area where the bite's going on. And just basically, if you're drift fishing, make repeated drifts. If you're weight fishing, of course, just get in there and stay in there and cast at all angles and you hammer them. Remember, there's 3 fish per person on trout. Changed a little while back, 15 to 20 inch slot size for the trout, and the bigger fish, of course, we're releasing. But got a really good trout, really nice trout here. Captain Ruben Garza, they just bought Getaway Adventures out of Port Mansfield here, and they've been taking some clients on some good fish there. So moving to offshore, red snapper fishing is really solid in state waters, and there's some wahoo deeper out along the temp breaks and some grass lines I've been seeing out there here in the last couple of days also. So talking about the red snapper fishing. State Waters is open, year round down here. It's really good. Fish are holding tight to the bottom right now when the winds are up and the currents are up. But if you get 3 to 4 really nice days in a row, you're going to find these fish suspended in the water column. So if you start finding them suspended, get an eagle claw jig head, the trocar jig, and just tip it with a gulp, nemesis, or just use it even naked. They're going to be hammering this thing. If you're using some bait, I always take several baits with me because sometimes they get finicky, but I just definitely take some squid, cigar minnows, sardines. Work well on a 13-aught eagle claw circle hook. Works really good. Here's one of our latest trips in the State Waters, which is a really solid fish. We got a picture of bones there with a 20-pound plus State Water snapper.
Wow,
So
that's a big one.
That's a big for any snapper. So anyways, moving on to water temps. We're talking about that stuff. It's still on the cool side, guys, but if you run out deep and you find a temp break around that 72, 75, not 69, but you find that 72, 75, you're going to find some grass lines out there, some structure. There's going to be some wahoo on it. So definitely have some Savage Max sticks in your arsenal there. And, rig them up with some wire leaders. These guys are really toothy. Also, I like using island lures rigged with some ballyhoo and wire also. I'll throw these guys at, 7.5 to 8 knots over these temp breaks. And definitely if you find temp breaks and structure combined, that's where they're really going to be at. But remember, handle these fish with really extreme caution. They can get toothy and slip off or, hurt you. But it's going to be a really good spring. Looking forward to it.
All right, Chad. Well, thank you for doing your thing, as you always do. Very informative, and I'm grateful. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower coast hotspots. Our man Chad says that inshore, guys, the sheepheads, they're on the lower coast jetties into good numbers with the conditions are favorable. And don't forget about offshore, the State Waters red snappers is good in 40 to 90 feet of water, and out deeper, if you can find a temperature break, there's been some good wahoos.
We need to go wahoo fishing.
Okay.
with Chad. I mean, you've been. I haven't been.
And I catch them with him.
You do catch them.
Big ones.
Big time.
Yes.
Big time. Just like his headshot. That's great.
That's it.
All right. Well, Chad did a good job.
That
the
was one I
StarTron.
caught.
Was it?
Yes, of course.
And he's holding your fish?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yep.
The StarTron Middle Fresh region is center stage coming right up. But first, Dave is putting some shiny new products at center stage at the Parts View Workbench. Hello,
Yes.
Dave.
Yep, we got the brand new Gulp shrimp here, which is a cool little shrimp, and some really nice reels from Abu Garcia that have been completely redesigned and brand spanking. So.
And
Cool
shiny,
stuff.
like I said. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win, Fenwick, Feel Everything, Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome, Heroes on the Water, Paddle, Fish, Heel. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a MirrowLure. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And StarTron, start, run, and store with StarTron.
Well, as you can tell, we're here at the Parts View Workbench, and it's time for the Taco Marine new products. Dave, we always troll the edge with Taco Marine.
Yes,
but
we do.
What kind of products are we going to start the season off with, dude?
We got some really nice, this little turbo shrimp, you've been using it for a little while, and, you put this thing in the water and you're like, holy cow, it looks so much like a real shrimp when you're moving it through the water. It's got a really great action. Those little feet that it's got on have a little flat spot.
Look at this, just the simplest. Oh, I got to put my hand behind it because you can't see.
Yeah, it's got that little flat spot, and so when you move that through the water, all those little legs just start kicking, and just like a real shrimp, irresistible action and flavor. It's got that legendary, Gulp-infused scent in there that just really spreads it out. So, lifelike segmented body and tail, and that unique leg design that we're talking about. You can put that on a jig head. You can put it under a popping cork. Do everything you can do with a real live shrimp. So, it comes in 4 in a package in the big 4-inch ones, and in a 3-inch version, it comes in a packet of 6. Comes a lot of different colors and I think
11 different colors.
11 different colors. There's going to be a lot of guys who are not going to have to buy shrimp anymore.
What's so cool is that you can sight fish with it and rig it weedless.
Yep.
Okay, and those little legs, when you're pulling it straight, not hopping it, they're jubilating, they're doing all kinds of things. It's kind of like a masseuse massaging the water.
Right.
I'm telling you. And then what's so cool about the tail itself is the way that it lays and floats as you let it sink.
Yeah,
it's not the traditional. Whew, yeah. So I mean, guys, if you don't have this, you just need to simply try it. You can go to our site and order them straight from off our site.
Yep,
our affiliate program.
BerkeleyFishing.com.
That's right.
Yep. Next, we've got some cool new reels from Abu Garcia. This is the Revo SX spinning reel, completely redesigned from the ground up. This reel, it's a brand new reel. Weighs only 8 ounces, still has 11 pounds max drag, which is pretty heavy for a spinning reel. 170 yards of 0.2 diameter braid, which is, 15-pound braid. It holds 170 yards of it. It's got a rocket spool lip on there and a whole rocket spool design. It allows you to make really long casts. Pulls in 39 inches per turn.
Come on.
Yeah, so, really 6.2 to 1. Really, you'll get your stuff moving in there. It's got a Xenon-inspired asymmetrical body design. Just really, really nice spinning reel for the guys who are wanting to fish in saltwater or freshwater, believe it or not.
And speaking of salt,
AbuGarcia.com. Next, we have the Revo Inshore Low Profile Reel, and this is a brand new reel made for inshore bait casting. Just a really nice reel, 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. Again, can really crank your stuff in if you want to get it in there quick. X2 Craft Addict frame, ergonomic and asymmetrical, and an added corrosion protection. It's got that really nice, big, wide, long handle on it, so you can really crank. Max drag 25 pounds.
Whoa.
So, you don't have to worry about hooking a bull red or any of those bigger fish. You can crank that star drag down and hold them. 235 yards of 20-pound braid. It's got the DuraGear D2 gears inside, just so you can winch in those bigger fish as well. Just a really small but strong inshore low-profile bait caster.
When we filmed our Sportsman's Adventure episode with Mike Iaconelli and Ron Houston, fishing in the Everglades for big giant snook.
Yeah.
This is what Ike was using. Really impressed on the drag and how smooth it really was.
It's a crusher.
It is a crusher.
It's a good thing.
What
to
I
use
love is that Abu is stepping out and they're building some products for saltwater. So guys in Texas, you want a great value? Go check out the new Abu reels.
I've always been a huge fan of Abu myself.
All right.
So next we have the Ugly Stick. This is the 11. I had to tear that box apart to get that thing out of there. It's 11-inch marine shears. They got a 5-inch blade, what they call an ugly tough grip. With this grip here is all rubberized. It really gives you a good stability when you're cutting bait fish or crabs for bait. When everything's all wet and slimy, you're still got a good handle on it. It's got a nice scaler on the back of here, and a little fin cutter if you want to just cut the fins off a bait. That little area right there, you can just snip fins off.
Perfect for rigging your swimming ballyhoos.
Exactly. I don't usually have to cut mine because I do it right the first time. Anyway, plastic sheath that allows quick drying, and don't cut my hair, man. Jesus. Plastic sheath that allows quick rinse and dry and will keep it safe. It also has a 7-year warranty.
7 years?
Yeah, so go to Ugly Stick and get you one of those.
That's almost as long as Bree's been working for us.
Almost.
Wow.
Almost.
These are
wow.
nice.
Way to age me. If I was holding scissors, I would have done much worse than you did today.
Yeah.
Okay, Star Trek Middle
Thank you.
Restorationers. Get ready for your long-awaited Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn report, plus some tips on Granbury and Whitney with Matt Losher. Matt, we so enjoyed seeing you and your sweet family at the Bassmaster Classic. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
It was so great to see all you guys at the Classic, and then see a lot of the fans of the show as well. Get to meet people that watch the show. Is just awesome. We love seeing you guys all out there, so it's great to meet all of you. So we're going to start out this week talking about the largemouth bass, as we always do. Starting off on Toledo Bend, bass here are in the spawn and the post-spawn stages. I would say most of the spawning is already done. Most of the fish now are in a post-spawn phase, but there is still a few on the nest and just a very, very few that are pre-spawn. So they're setting up out on the flats and the points in about 5 to 15 feet of water outside of the spawning areas. and they're feeding on shad that are coming in to spawn as well. The best bite has been on a topwater plug in the morning and then a Carolina rig throughout the day. Crankbaits have also been effective some days. And we got a photo here for you of Miss Dee Dee showing a nice example of what you can catch on Toledo Bend right now. There's a big fat 7-pounder from Toledo Bend.
Man,
It looks bigger.
it sure does. Sure does. Great picture there, boss.
All right, now let's move over to Sam Rayburn. It's holding close to pool level now, which means there's a lot of good options for shallow cover to fish, and there is some fish up there. You can definitely get a lot of bites up around that shallow cover, but be careful not to let it suck you in too much if you're after the big fish. Especially on those bigger fish, with that water level dropping, the fish are going to be pulling out away from that cover. So they're going to be pulling out, setting up on the points and flats in about 5 to 15 feet of water. Shad are moving into spawn there too, so you can get some top water action potentially early in the morning. And then once you get the sun up a little bit, they're going to be out on the crankbaits and the Carolina rigs. That's always a staple on Rayburn, of course. All right, moving over to Granbury now. Granbury is clear. It's holding around 60 degrees. Bass are just beginning to spawn there. And so those Bass Assassin soft plastics are really good as those fish move into those protected pockets. Focus on those spawning areas and use those fat jobs, and you can definitely have some fun there with that. Down on Whitney, full pool level there. The water is stained. Bass are just starting to move into the spawning areas. So once again, those Bass Assassin soft plastics are very effective. Your light Texas rig style stuff, and then your weightless stuff. Some fish are still in the pre-spawn phase though there as well. Those lakes are a little behind what we are here on the eastern side. So, the further west you go up around the hill country there, they're going to be a little cooler. So some of those fish are still going to be pre-spawn. They're going to be sitting out on the points, staging their way in. So look for them on the points. All right, now we're going to switch it over to the crappie. And we're going back to Toledo Bend for that one. Starting off on Toledo Bend, the crappie bite has been improving by the day lately. Catch numbers are just going up and up and up. They're really turning it on here lately. They're setting up on the points as well. They're out in about 10 to 20 feet of water, and they've been biting the Panfish Assassin jigs and the minnows, fish under a cork as well. They're using all forms of cover right now, from grass to timber to docks and bridges. Just kind of depends on what part of Toledo Bend you're in. The lake has a very diverse habitat, but just stay in that 10 to 20 foot of water and focus on the areas where those fish are going to be coming out from spawning, and that's where you're going to find them. We got another photo here for you. Some guys who fished with my dad this week. They had a really good day there, caught a nice mess of slabs, and if you can see in the back there, they caught a good mess of yellow bass to go with it. Those yellow bass are kind of mixing in with the crappie, so that's fun too.
Nice.
All right, now jumping over back to Sam Rayburn. The crappie there, holding on points as well. 12 to 25 feet is the depth you can find them in, and they're going to be around timber and brush and a little bit on the bridges as well. Minnows and jigs are the deal for catching them also. All right, now last but not least, we're going to talk catfish for just a minute before I let you go. Going back to Toledo Bend once again, this lake is just so full of blue cat, guys. It's really, it might actually be underfished for blue cat. We have just tons of them, and they've been moving into the flats as well. They've been moving up there, getting ready to spawn. A lot of big ones being caught on cut bait under forks, and of course you can use minnows. They're not usually too picky. Just float something through there, and you can definitely catch you a bunch of catfish, and maybe even some giant ones. And I had to show this photo here of myself. I'll admit, this was a fish that was caught sort of by accident. I was out there bass fishing that day, and that thing decided to jump on my crankbait. Took me forever to get it in. That thing weighed 57 pounds.
You thought you had a giant bass, didn't you?
Well, I got to tell you
I thought I
that.
had a giant bass there for a second, but I found out pretty quickly it wasn't. So
that's a real
we had
cool-
some fun with it. Made for a great fish story.
That's a real cool picture, but I got a prettier photo, that'll be even a little more dear to your heart.
Cuter photo.
Look at that,
Oh, baby girl.
Dave, she won my heart.
I bet.
Oh
I think
my
you won
God.
hers too.
Yeah, we had a thing going
Yeah,
on,
you
man. I
did.
learned that she loved it when Uncle Rick clapped,
Claps.
and then she clapped into belly laugh. And when they belly laugh, I lose my banana.
Cry, Matt.
But we got to go ahead and say goodbye, Matt. Thank you so much for sharing your family while we were out there. We got to go do the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Middle Fresh region. Our captain says the bass are in all stages of the spawn throughout the Middle Fresh region. Guess what? Eastern lakes are faster along, and the shads are spawning there. The Central West lakes are pre-spawned and spawned, and then the crappie are in the same way. Catfish are hot on Toledo Bend using cut bait in the flats.
Well, Rick, Dave, this has been a great first show back. It feels really good to see everybody, see all of our captains, talk and see how the fishing's been up to. But you know what? We have some new sponsors.
Yes.
PartsVu and Proshex, we're very happy to welcome.
That's right.
So we're gonna see lots of things from them this season.
Guys, if you're not sure what PartsVu is, you need to go to partsview.com and check it out. They got everything for any outboard you could possibly need.
Everything. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.